So in today's episode, we have Jeff, who founded Vessels, a brand that was born from someone being suicidal to then receiving a spiritual awakening. Jeff is originally from Haiti, however, now resides in New York City. Oh no, it's not New York City, is it? It's yeah.
Same difference. Jersey, New York.
Sorry.
It's one. Yeah.
My bad. So Vessels as a brand are now dedicated to helping others to become more in touch with themselves to make them an all-rounded better human being. So on that note, welcome Jeff. Please could you give us a brief introduction about yourself and a little bit about your background for our listeners? Boom.
Yeah, glad to be here, guys. Thank you for having me. Like you said, I'm Jeff. Definitely went through my own, trials and tribulations as an adult. What transpired out of that is Vessels and just having more empathy for other people on their journey, and essentially just trying to find ways to just reassure people that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And Vessels is one, I guess you could say, projection of that. And I guess about myself, pretty, regular guy. Prior to all of this, I was a finance manager. Did the regular corporate 9-to-5 approach to life. Pretty much a square.
A square. That's me. Jeff, do you mind telling Jay what you told me yesterday about your
Oh, you said about being left-handed.
Your left-hand.
Because you told me that earlier.
Story. Yeah. Just because I find it really interesting. I think he will as well.
Yeah, no, we were talking about, so this ties into mushrooms. We were talking about just like psychedelics and how that comes into play. So a big part of my journey to just who I am today has to do a lot with just working with plant medicine. Initially, I started working with ayahuasca. I was terrified to go initially. I honestly thought I was going to die, but I just said, you know what, since I'm already I'm on the edge anyway. It's, what difference would it make anyway at that point, right? So I went, had an experience. It was life-shifting, completely the most incredible experience I had in my life up to that point, as far as just reconciling with my past and making sense of things that really, what I would call blockers, things that really prevented me from being my true authentic self. And that was great. I had that experience, literally shifted me, but I felt like I was at you could say 70 out of 100% as far as healed, quote unquote. And that other 30% over time, I realized I needed to do something because, I was in a great space, but at the same time, I knew there was more work to do. So I had to figure out things. And before that, mind you, like I said, square, man, didn't smoke. I would drink here and there, but definitely had anxiety, stress prior to all of this stuff. And then, I knew nothing about mushrooms. I knew nothing about ayahuasca. I knew nothing about bufo as far as just psychedelics, period. I knew nothing about that world. So a lot of things that happened, which I'll get into the whole Haiti piece, it just unfolded. So when I got back from ayahuasca, I forgot how it came about, but a friend of mine just mentioned hey, you should consider doing your own mushroom journeys on your own at your house, and the other different, the difference and stuff that you want to still reconcile, you could kind of do it on your own and just kind of go on those trips. And so I started that journey, and this is exactly what I was saying yesterday. I wanted it to be. I didn't want to have bad trips because, one, I knew nothing about mushrooms. I was still kind of petrified. So I treated it as if I was preparing for ayahuasca. So for ayahuasca, it's very strict where you have to fast. It impacts your diet. They encourage you to journal to kind of be mindful of what you're trying to, get out of the experience. And then also, you have to create the right set and setting to make sure your environment is inviting enough where it's just you feel good, at least in the space you in. So anyway, I started doing those trips, and one of them is what we were talking about yesterday, which is working with mushrooms, especially golden teachers. They're called golden teachers because they really do kind of expose and teach you different things about yourself. And one of them was, I remember one time I had like, and I was doing really strong doses. I was doing like 5 to 7 grams, like every 2 weeks, like really deep, like deep journeys, like what you would call hero journeys, right? So Terrence McKenna calls them hero journeys. Anything over 5 grams is considered like, you know, you go on like really exploration type experiences. So the one that I had was the day I had it, it was all about shame. Literally, everything about it was just about shame, like just showing me my own form of shame, how I've like internalized shame, things that happened to me that caused shame, and like just general, just like what it looks like for other people. So one of them was when I was in Haiti, because I'm left-handed. You can't be left-handed in Haiti. Don't ask me why. So, as a kid, I used to, starting out, my left hand was dominant, so I used to like write with my left. And my teacher, she actually she used to pull out a ruler and she used to just hit me on my hand, and essentially discouraging me to write with my left and forcing me to write with my right. So she would do that like over and over again whenever, and after a while I just started writing with my right, and now actually this is like the hand I write with, so I'm kind of like ambidextrous by default. So within that process, when I was doing the journey, it took me back actually when I was like 5. It showed me that, it was showing me all these different forms of shame, and I'll explain what it shows me. The first shame, me, you, all 3 of us here on this call have. And the first, but for the mushroom one, it showed me, for the one I was mentioning about my hand, it just showed me that like you have stored negative energy in your body, and one of them is actually here. You were ashamed for being left-handed, the fact that you were taken outside in front of the class and hit in your hand constantly. Like there's a certain like blocker you have associated with that, kind of like less than, you know what I mean? And in general too, and like just the overall journey, it was showing me like the first shame that children have is when they're learning how to use the potty. In other words, like they start out in diapers, and once parents are trying to get them, to not use a diaper, that's like their first form of shame. So like when you wet the bed, that's like your first form of like real shame as a person. That's the first time you become like cognizant of like, oh man, I'm not good enough, or I did something wrong, and like that kind of forms personality. Like, to be type A, to be very mindful, like just how like you react, like all of these things start to form your personality and how like you interact with others. And then it was just like a wild night of like deep journeys, just like walking me through like all these different ways that myself I had shame. I had shame from like just not being considered like good enough for my siblings. That was like actually, and I don't know if I didn't share this, but like the biggest thing for me and what caused a lot of like what I realized in hindsight for my journey was my shame came from not even just shame, just like my overall like self-worth was low because I'm 1 out of 6 kids, and they all much older than me, and we just didn't have rapport. Like I didn't get to hang out with them. They didn't really want to hang out with me. And it's kind of like as a kid, you growing up and your parents are working, right? We're, immigrant parents, they're working, they're making, ends meet or whatever. And you have siblings, and that's kind of like your first tribe.
Yeah.
And if there's no rapport there, it kind of creates a weird dynamic in your mind as far as just like, what's wrong with me? How come, I'm not worthwhile? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did all your other siblings get on too? And did you just feel like, like the odd one out, or was you all kind of like that?
Yeah, unfortunately it was. And it's like, and granted I had, good moments too, but for the most part, there was always just like this, like a burden, as if I was some sort of burden, you know what I mean? And that just kind of stuck with me. And on top of that, growing up, it just became a lot. And I just never really had like, that community among siblings, and there's 4 girls, so they were always close, and my brother was he's the second oldest, so he was always like, by the time I was like 9, he's like 15, 16, he's out and about chasing girls, so he's nowhere to be found. So it's just kind of like it just created this weird relationship as far as for me and people, and like I've never felt like I was good enough, and that really became a blocker for me. And it's funny. I realized that neglect is what led to me having like a massive depression and like really feeling low and whatever. I was working with I had business partners, and just between stress and just like always being guarded, we ended up not working together, and they actually parted ways with me. And I think that was like a feeling of abandonment, and like it just triggered everything. And then it just kind of took me on this journey of just having to like reconcile with my past. So anyway, yeah, but that was the story about how mushrooms really teaches you with like, especially for me, with just my hand and everything like that.
That's meant that, and that feeling sort of as a bit of an outcast with your siblings, that can be really, really daunting, because you ask a lot of internal questions like, is there something wrong with me? Is it something I've done? Is it my fault? How can I correct it?
Very similar to you.
Am I a fucking alien? And having that internal dialogue between like 9 and, was it 13 or whenever it was, but still young, it's a lot to be sort of like having those conversations with yourself as a kid, because then how are your internal conversations going to get more positive if they're the first ones that you're having with yourself being, am I fucking shit? It can't sort of it can't put you in good stead for having further positive conversations with yourself if you're already attacking yourself as a kid. It's fucking grim. But what I did want to ask off the back of that is, you mentioned ayahuasca, and for absolute novelty fucking psychedelic heads, we have no idea what that is. Is it a place? Is it a thing? When you say it, I imagine like a cave in Peru. So, do you mind just telling us what? Yeah, a cave with like magic carpets and like everyone in a circle singing. I don't know. It just first thing that comes to my head.
It's funny you saying that, because it can't be magical. I'll be honest with you, because like think about it, right? Like, so, and I'll explain why ayahuasca is. Ayahuasca is plant medicine. Literally, is 2 tree vines that come together and create DMT.
Oh, dimethyltryptamine or whatever it's called. Okay, yeah. So that's ayahuasca.
Yeah, and your body naturally produces it. It's just that when you drink these medicines, it just gives you a high influx of it. And that in itself, what it does is it typically just opens up your subconscious and conscious mind. So if you think about like there's like a break between the two, that wall is unveiled. So all the madness that's going on in your subconscious mind and your conscious mind come together. And that's why you hear people say it's life-changing. Because there's certain things that you've never really reconciled that just surfaces. And it's like big aha moments. But to your point, what ayahuasca is, it's basically like a brew that they prepare. Most people go to like Peru, like you said.
No way, really? They actually go to Peru. Fucking hell.
Yeah, but me, I got lucky. So there's actually a great nonprofit church here in the States. It's called Soul Quest, and I went there 3 times, and I sat with the medicine. And essentially, it's a brew that they provide you. It tastes disgusting. But once you drink it, within like 30 minutes, you start to the hallucinogen starts to work in your body. And like they call it like a spirit, like Mother Aya, and she just starts to just kind of work through you. And like, you kind of get a little hot. Your mind is racing. Sometimes, it could be euphoric, meaning like it's just pure bliss, like literally like bliss. You get a chance to just explore. All sort of shapes are coming up in front of you, and your eyes are closed. The music is playing, and it's it's very specific, like ambient music is playing. It's beautiful, and then it's not. Meaning, and then all this trauma that you're there for, again, because your mind is fully open at that point. So all of it starts to bleed in, and if you've never actually done self-inquiry, it's a powerful thing. They say it's like 10 years of therapy in a weekend, and it's true. It's like so much comes to you, so much what they call downloads, like insight about yourself, about your situation, reframing it. seeing it from different perspective. Maybe you had an argument with someone or whatever. You get to, sometimes you get a chance to see it from their perspective. Sometimes, you get to have reconciliations with people that you never talk to, and just that insight about them. It's like a higher version of yourself is allowing you to experience all of this and just have dialogue around it. And it's powerful. Like for me, I explained, like when I did ayahuasca, two things. One, I remember going back to the stoop where we stayed, like the building, and I just saw a younger version of myself just sitting on the stoop by myself, quiet. It was kind of like evening, and I was just standing there, like me, like the cognizant version of me now was just standing there, and I'm just watching him. And then like the feeling I felt, there was no words, but the feeling was just like, I just wish my mom knew how lonely I felt. That was just like the feeling that I just experienced right then and there. And then at some point, it's like I sat next to him, like the younger version of me. Then like the 85 version of me, like the older future version of me, sat next to us as well. And we just had like a moment, like a complete just silence of just like reconciling past, present, and future. It's
wow.
Yeah, it's wild. And it's stuff you can't even really like explain to people until like you validate it yourself by having your own experience. And it's wild.
Is it quite taxing on your body? Like, do you feel like you've done like a marathon or something afterwards? Or do you need a good fucking sleep and stuff after it?
I was going to say, where's your physical body? Like, do you know when you're having these, like, kind of like thoughts? Like, like, so are you kind of just like lay there, like, combing out against a wall or something? Or?
Yeah, no, you can be. That's a great point because, like, with ayahuasca specifically, it's like a feminine energy and like it's really working through your body. So like one thing to really like to mention, so you guys have been through your own challenges in life just like me. And one thing we know about challenges is it's stored in the body in the form of anxiety, stress. So whatever pain you experience, somehow, some way, it is stored in your body somewhere, right? And what happens with ayahuasca that's interesting and really profound is there's this concept of purging. And purging is basically like that negative energy, let's just say it's anxiety or depression and whatever blocker you have that's stored somewhere in your body, similar to me how I talked about my hand, it's like when the moment is right within that process, it makes you purge that energy out.
Is that like is that like releasing it? You're like
releasing it,
right? Yeah, go like vanish, like
100%. And it's interesting, and it's like you'll hear it too. It's like okay, when the purge comes, you feel like you're throwing up. It's like and then they give you like these little buckets because some people do not really throw up, but like you purge, like you spit and all this stuff, and like they give you this little bucket. And in that bucket, interestingly, it's so small. And this white little bucket with like a little plastic inside. Brother, you take this bucket, you hugging it like it's a baby. You just like this. And you just like throwing up in this little bucket. And the crazy thing is you're throwing up, and as you're throwing up, it's like there's lessons coming with that. So like, let's just say like for me, like I had resentment, like real resentment towards my siblings. I just felt like I wouldn't have done that to you, so why did you do it to me? I don't get it. Like, I couldn't really wrap my head around that, honestly. So throughout that process, as I'm going through it, and like, all these emotions are conjuring up, and like, when I first started purging, it's like literally, like I kind of heard a voice, like literally I heard a voice, like a guide, so to speak, just kind of like, it's time to let this go. Like, it's time to let it go. And bro, like I purged in the bucket, and like I felt like I had to throw up. So it was like, and then like from my gut to like all here, I'm throwing up, but nothing's coming out of it though. That's the phenomenon. That's the phenomenon to me. There's nothing coming out per se, but I mean from the gut, like throwing up, and all this energy is like the resentment, the anger, all of it is coming out, and I'm just like, and as I do that now, it's like I feel the energy coming out, and it's literally just that, and then you're spitting into just the bucket, and you're looking at it, and you kind of see that feeling coming out. You feel it, like you're letting it go, and it's all part of that journey of ayahuasca of like, you're purging those feelings, you're purging that emotion, and it's just so liberating to have that experience, to just be able to, like, address things, see it from your perspective, other people's perspective, and then at some point being able to let it go, being able to kind of like that energetic frustration, that energetic pain, being able to release that is the power of ayahuasca.
Yeah, it's like relinquishing the power of that negative emotion on your own body, innit? It's just like I get not that you give up, but you're just like, that is no longer a part of my anatomy.
Don't want it anymore.
Yeah, like it's in that bucket and it's never ever coming back into me.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Like, and you may not necessarily come out of it 100% like healed, right? But you'll come out like much better than where you are, and then like there's this certain emotion of just like, you just feel so much lighter, because a lot of times, like when you go in there, bro, I've been in there. I have experiences where people have lost their mom early, where people have just had like some really tough life experiences. And you know what's funny? And you go there too, like me, I was at a point where I was damn near suicidal from just negativity and just like feeling so overwhelmed. Like I can't do this. There's no quality of life in having this kind of like panic attack. Like, it makes no sense, right? So, but then when you go there, you meet other people that have so much going on with them. And you just like, oh, you know what? My situation is not even that bad in comparison to what other people are dealing with. And, and you kind of just like, and there's a certain level of gratitude in that sense too. But then what's beautiful, it's kind of like a frat, right? Like, you go there, you have your experience, and then it's so profound. It kind of builds like this community of like people, like some of my closest friends that I've known for years now, I've met probably at like a retreat, because it's just like a certain sense of like community of just like we both know what that was like. And we both seen each other literally go from like 0 to like 100, like literally shift our life over like 2 nights. And there's something really like sacred about that form of relationship you have with people, Yeah, but ayahuasca is incredible, and it is taxing on the body for sure. You're 100% right about that.
So when you're doing these meets with these like brews and stuff like that, like where all I'm thinking is like legality, like is in New York, is it all like above board and all that, or like how are you just sitting there putting mushrooms in your kettle and not like looking over your shoulder?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends where you go. So like you said, you can go to Peru. There's some people work with shamans, and then there's another train of thought too, where it's like you are the teacher. And I believe in that too. Like, you are your own healer. And it's just, some people go to retreats where it's like overseas, while some people do it kind of like more, like here in the States, more like underground per se. And there's all sort of retreats going on. It's just kind of like putting yourself out there and finding out who serves really good medicine, and in the right environment that holds you. And another thing I meant to say too, like, you're like, about ayahuasca and people just jumping around. One thing is for sure, man, what's the most beautiful thing about at least my experience that I've had at SoulQuest is the people that are there helping you, because your body is drenched. It's not really painful, but it's like releasing of all that energy, all that think about like 20 plus years of negative energy you have stored up, and you're releasing it. Your body is drained. Just that process, all the amount of crying and screaming and, letting all that stuff go, your body's just drained. And what's beautiful is there's typically like volunteers that come out. And those volunteers, what I've noticed is typically other people that are on the other side of the spectrum that have gone through their own journeys, and now they're just holding space for you or me. And it's just there. And it's absolutely, like you said, people are dancing. Yes. It might just be dancing around the fire or something like that, but it's just so beautiful because it's like other people that have healed themselves, and now they come back just to pass it forward by just holding space for others. And that simply means, like, at the end of your night, you could be laying there like exhausted, and then somebody just puts a towel over you. Not towel, like a blanket over you, bringing towels when you need it, water, it's just so generous and so beautiful, man, to just see that kind of community, and everybody gets it. It's like there's nothing you could do that's like so like out there that no one gets. Like, because everybody has seen just about everything. It's like if you're screaming to the top of your lungs when you look like you're having an exorcist, like everybody gets it. Yeah, like if you're, if you're just like, screaming as far as just laughing hysterically, everybody gets it. It's like there's no, and it's like this safe zone. It becomes like this safe zone where you could actually fully self-express for once. And then you can walk away with like an authentic experience where like you don't feel judged, and whatever it was that got you there, you had an honest moment to kind of like look in the mirror and just address it for what it is. And that's the beauty of like some of these retreats for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like that community sort of like personify freedom.
It's like I wouldn't even say freedom, but it's kind of like I would say like safe space. It's like it's one of the few moments in your life where think about the average person's walking around with a mask on, right? Pretending they're this, that, and the third. Everything is all peachy, when in reality they're massive stress. They probably have all kind of like neuroses that they don't address, all sort of stuff going on, right? It's just really an opportunity when specifically I can talk about Soul Quest because that's the only place I've done ayahuasca. It's like it's a safe space. You get to actually just for once take off that mask, and then the interesting thing is the person sitting right next to you on the mat as well took off their mask, and like you guys kind of have like this moment together where it's like it's just honesty, and then everybody shares like their experience, and it's just a beautiful thing. For once, you don't have to pretend that you're not hurting, and just be honest.
No, it just
yeah.
I was going to say it does sound proper beautiful. Like I'm jealous, to be fair. I don't know anywhere around here that does it. I was going to say, how do you hear of these things? And is it all like word of mouth, or is it on like fucking Reddit in some deep buried fucking threads and stuff like that?
This is interesting you saying this. It's like more popular than ever. It's everywhere. Like everybody talks about like, at least and it could be a bias too, just because like I'm probably more aware of it. But like, I actually found out about Soul Quest through there was a documentary on Netflix, and they were featured in it.
No one.
And then that's how I found out about them. And then even then, like I told you, I was petrified. I was just like, oh my god, like I'm gonna die. And then my resolution was like, fuck it. If I die, I die. I mean, at this point, it is what it is. So, but yeah, it's out there. There's a lot of great retreats for sure.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, sorry, you'll be able to explain this better than me, but obviously everything that Jeff's just explained then sounds a lot like what you told me about a while ago.
What about Cambo?
About Mini Bart with the slug kind of shit.
Yeah. So, did you know what Cambo is, Jeff? Have you heard of Cambo?
I've heard of Cambo. I've never done Cambo because I think they kind of like have to open you up and then they put it in. Nah.
Is it frog stuff? Sorry.
What they do, they sort of like make little cuts on like your wrist or your shoulder or your neck, somewhere like that, and they'll squirt a bit of like, I think it's frog poison or frog spawn. It might not be poison or something to do with a frog, and then that goes into your system, and then you know what you were saying about purging, like you legit do throw up and have like diarrhea and like every bodily fluid comes out of you. And then you have to drink 2 litres of water afterwards to obviously like replenish your losses. And then during it, the guy, like the teacher, the whoever, will look at the waste that comes out of you and like point to that bit there, that white foamy stuff, that's your anxiety. That little orange bit there, that's a sausage roll. I'm joking. But it'll pinpoint different toxins in your body that are within your expulsions, and then after it you need like a 24-hour kip, get into bed 24 hours, and then apparently in the morning you just like you said before, lighter, a bit more rejuvenated, energetic, and just a bit like bouncier, thinking like I can take on life now. And my friend's done it like 3 times. Said he does it even when he's not feeling like down. He'll do it when he's like on the up. Like I'm gonna do Cambo again, just because it's that like it's that beneficial. He's trying to get me to do it, but I'm shitting myself, to be perfectly honest.
No, I mean, that's the thing too. Like, as far as like plant medicine, there's so many different like plant medicines out there. It's all about what you gravitate towards. Like for me, I worked with ayahuasca 3 times, and then I realized like, okay, I don't have that level of drama anymore in my life. Like I'm like in a great place. I don't need ayahuasca anymore. Like I don't need the lessons that comes with that, because it is very taxing on the body. And then, like I mentioned, I worked with mushrooms like heavily at one point for like 4 months straight, which is how I had my whole spiritual awakening. Within that, because it was very concentrated, very specific. It was like a whole modality that I kind of like just put together. And then after that, I worked with Bufo. Similar to what you're saying with the frog, Bufo is like the strongest DMT that you could do, our strongest psychedelic out there. They call it the God molecule because literally, it just opens like your top chakra, and like you literally kind of feel the oneness of the universe. You have that whole real experience of just feeling one with the universe, and it's incredible. Yeah, and I prefer to work with Bufo personally. Like if I would do a journey like once a year or something like that now, like I would prefer Bufo over anything else.
I don't think that's going to be available in the UK, is it?
Bufo, I'm sure there's plenty of people doing Bufo by you.
I'm sure there's a guy down the fucking alleyway or something selling it as we speak.
Yeah.
But no, Jeff, you mentioned like the whole spiritual awakening and stuff like that, and I was saying to Jay before that I think there's like a bit of a stigma associated with the terminology spiritual awakening, because when you said it yesterday, my mind went there as well. Like what I instantly thought of, just honestly, was like you was at the top of a mountain. Someone was doing the Titanic thing with you. You were opening your arms up. Shaman was behind you going, "You're free, Jeff. This is what life's about." And obviously, that's not what happened, but that's where my narrow-mindedness towards the term spiritual awakening went to. So I wonder if you could explain, because I'd imagine everybody's spiritual awakening can be vastly different. So what was your spiritual awakening experience like where was you, how did it happen, and so on?
Yeah, very valid. I think people have different kind of spiritual moments, but spiritual awakening is just what it is. It's just kind of like, it's really just an awareness that just comes over you that you are more than your body, you're more than your mind. In reality, you're not your body, right? And you're not your thoughts. So it's kind of like an enigma, like, what are you? With that being said, for me, when I was doing my mushroom journeys, bi-weekly, I would end up just doing like really high doses, and like so much started unraveling for me, so much like insight about, me as a kid, like going back and like different things that really triggered me. I started just unpacking it, seeing it from like my siblings' point of view, seeing it from my point of view, seeing other, traumas that happened in my life. And after a while, like I said, it's like in the beginning, it's very tough. It hurts. You going back, you're addressing sides of you that, you may not necessarily feel good about, right? So you're addressing these things, they start to pop up, and it's sad. You cry, you feel the pain, you're going through that. Those are the early stages, at least for me, when it comes to that. Then after a while, it's kind of like you reconcile things. It's kind of like rendering of sorts. Like, you start from 70, 80%, 90%, and then you get to a point where you're about to hit 100%. And for me, it's kind of like towards the end of like that 4-month period, I got to a point where like I knew I kind of just like addressed everything. I just like everything that really bothered me. I don't know why, guys. I just consciously I just didn't. I wanted to like change my outlook, my world. Like I really wanted to just get a better perspective, like just be in a better mental space. And by continuing to work with it, after a while, like I got to a point where like I addressed just about everything that I felt like I needed to address. I was, very happy. I was just like good. And I was laying, and I remember I was laying down. I was in my office. I was laying down, and I used to do all of this in my office too. I'm laying down, and I was listening to like this curated playlist I have, which is like ambient music. It's very much like awakening type music. It has certain mantras in it. It has like 432 hertz kind of sound, like just all the things that just really just propel you to really go deep, right? So so I'm listening to it. And it was just kind of like euphoric. I was just having like this beautiful, I just felt like I was just in complete peace. And at that time, I started doing a little bit of breath work too. Subconsciously, I didn't even realize I was doing it. So I'm breathing, and I'm holding like my chest and my stomach. I'm breathing in, and I'm super. I mean, like alpha state, relaxed. Yeah, you know how you reach like a theta state of mind where you just super, just calm and just relax. And mind you, I'm on like 5 grams, so like I'm super like, bro, peace, like. And I'm listening to this, I'm listening to music, and it's just so beautiful, and I'm just so grateful. Honestly, I'm thinking back, like, man, I started from the tail end, and look at where I'm at now. And then within that moment, and like, it's like I had no thought. Honestly, I was just like kind of just enjoying the moment, super like in that specific moment. And then it's like a aha, not even an aha. It's like, how you just remember something, and it's like, oh. It's like it was just like remembering that just popped in, and what happened was it was just like an acknowledgement of just like, oh wow, when our eyes are closed, that's pretty much our true reality, and when our eyes are open, this is the dream, and this is what it means to be to have a human experience. So like if you think about it, the friction that happens in your life is because there's a gap between how you feel inside and your outer experience, right? So like there's a break, there's friction between, what you expect your life to be versus how you feel about it internally, meaning like, why am I experiencing this? How come this didn't happen for me? All of these frictions between your inner world and the outer world that you're experiencing, something's not aligned. And it just kind of just dawned on me, just like, wow, okay, we are these spiritual beings that, we are these light beings that have these human experiences where we experience what we feel inside in the framework of time. So like, if you, and a simple experiment that you could just do that's really baffles you if you think about it, you could close your eyes right now. You could think of yourself anywhere in the world or anywhere in the galaxy. Like with thought, you could think about yourself in China, walking around in the market. You could see yourself on the beach, beautiful, sun's out, right? Just that ability to envision is a very profound thing.
Yeah.
That's awareness. That's who you are. That ability to have a thought and you can project it out into this reality. You had that thought, and you had that thought without going anywhere. That's a phenomenon if you think about that, right? There's something very mystical about that. That can't be fathomed, that can't be imagined and really understood. This is why in spirituality people talk about the I am. Like we all have this experience of being aware, right? Where you say I am this, I am that. You add things onto it, all different type of awareness or experiences that you proclaim. But the truth is, as a collective, we're just I am. Like as a collective, we are just this one entity, looking at itself from different perspectives. So like literally everyone is one. The same consciousness that you have, that ability that you just had to have that same level of awareness, I could have it, right? And the next person as well. So we are these spiritual beings, and if you don't want to say spiritual, if you want to dumb it down some more, we are these enigmas that we do not understand, right? That have this experience that we're having right now. And one thing that came to me before that, I knew nothing honestly about like, certain like Hindu philosophies like Advaita Vedanta that talks about these things. It just kind of happened to me, and I just had this acknowledgement of like, it's like, and when you think about like plant medicine too, people say it all the time, like it unlocks DNA, it unlocks because your neural paths change. So like when you are having these experiences, again, your subconscious and conscious mind is wide open. you start making new associations with things and how you think about things. It changes the relationship and like of how you know, whatever you were addressing, the relationship you were having with it shifts within that you know, that moment in time that you're addressing it. And for me, like when I had that awakening, it was just the most profound yet weird thing ever. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Because it just dawned on me like, oh, and it's not like I think, right? It was like a very like matter of fact, like, oh, I come here, I have this human experience, I have an avatar, but this isn't me. I'm really a spiritual being having this experience, and how I feel inside is projected in my outer world.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. Absolutely fucking nuts. And I couldn't tell nobody about it because I thought I was crazy. I was like, oh my God, I did too much shrooms. I lost my shit. And then like, but you know, the beauty of it is, it's kind of like, and I remember that night I got up, I went downstairs and I was standing in front of the mirror. I'm just looking at my body and like, I'm just like, oh my God, like, yes, I have a body. I get it. This is Jeff's body, but I'm actually not that. I'm like this spiritual being that's hosting in this body. Like, you know, the energy that, you know, what makes you as a person, your energy that, you know, like when somebody dies, right? Like what people really miss is your energy, the truth, your awareness. It's not the body because the body's still here, you know? So it's like having that understanding, like the core of you, the essence of you. And when you look into like, you know, the philosophies out there, like the great gurus that's been around, they all say the same thing. The true essence of you, of who you are as a person, was never born, will never die. It's just infinite. It's always been here and it will always be here. That's why, you know, it's interesting when you hear people talk about past lives, not past lives, but just like when they, you know, when they have near-death experiences, it's like they saw themselves leave their body. And it's a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon, but having that spiritual awakening is really becoming aware of that, really aware of it. And then you are able then to just objectify like, wow, everything that's happening in front of me is not necessarily, because think about this, if you're not your thoughts and you're not your body, you're the awareness observing all of these things happening. Right?
So it's just zooming out. Like it gives you the ability to zoom out.
There you go.
I think like that's very layman terms, but like you look in the mirror or something like that. Like go back a bit. Okay, you're in a house. Okay, go back a bit. You're in a country. Go back a bit. You're in a fucking planet orbiting infinite nothingness.
Now and there you go. And then if you really think about it, right? The reality is the same thing. The same essence that's in me is in you and the next person next to you. It's really the same. It's the same essence that's just observing itself from different angles. If you think about that, right? Like we're, you know, the same life force that makes me up makes you up. There's no separation. It's really ego that makes us feel like, well, I'm Jeff, and the next person's the next person, and on and on. But in reality, it's really this one thing that expands out, creates these different objects, and it's observing itself from different angles. People, your pets, etc. It's that same life force. And once you become aware of that, and then you're able to just not believe your thoughts. So when you have that negative thought, that's not you. That's priming, right? That's just conditioning of like things that happened, you know, maybe you didn't eat, maybe, you know, somebody, you know, shoved you and they put you in the back. That's all priming of the mind. That's not you per se. You're, again, just like the awareness that's observing all of this. But all of these experiences that are happening is not you. And then the beautiful thing you really come to grasp is like the phenomena of thinking, and everybody talking, oh, I overthink, I over this. Yeah, that's a phenomena in itself. And that's where all of the problem starts, from thinking. And if you think about like, and we hear these things all the time, but it doesn't really connect. It doesn't resonate. Like, for example, I'm a business guy, again, being in finance and all that stuff before. And it's like, one thing you hear all the time about like the best, you know, entrepreneurs or the best people in the world. Oh, they were in a flow state, right? They're in a flow state. And when you talk to that person, like, yeah, you know, I wasn't thinking, I was just kind of like in the moment. And that is awakening. Being in the moment and this continuous now that never changes. You can't go back, you can't go forward. It's really just this moment. And once you acknowledge that, and then you start to treat each moment for what it is as the present and only thing that will ever exist in your life, that in itself makes you infinite, because then you understand that every moment counts. There's value in every moment. Every conversation matters. Everybody matters. And more importantly, too, again, we all are from the same life force. To have the ability to understand that, man, I could be looking at someone, there's, obviously the person is different from me, but really we are the same thing. To have that acknowledgement, to understand that, and then to be able to see yourself in everyone, that's when you have harmony in your life.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then there's empathy you can have for others, there's understanding, there's communication. It just opens you up to a whole new world of like an experiencing people, experiencing life. It's humbling. It's humbling.
It really is. A lot of what you were just saying then, obviously this isn't as like deep and probably as spiritual and stuff, but I recently like went through a breakup with my partner a few months ago, and like you said, a lot of the stuff you were saying then, I was just taking it all in, and I was resonating with so much stuff you were saying, because I felt like that in so many times. Like you said, like you kind of like step away and you start to like start appreciating different things, and like thinking about all the things that you did wrong, and like how you kind of it is just crazy, like you said, in terms of like just reflecting on stuff, and it's just it's crazy. And like now like we're like back together, and like she keeps saying all the time, like I can't believe how much you've changed, and like I weren't like bad, it was just like you said, it was just like negative energy, and I was carrying around all that kind of like trauma with me, and not even realizing, and like passing it on to other people, and that negative energy, and it's just getting it all out and stuff like that. But one thing I wanted to obviously touch on is more about like the benefits of like breath work and meditation, because I know we've spoken a lot about like fucking shrooms and shit like that, but I wanted to ask more about the meditation side and breath work, because that's something I've always wanted to get into and do, and I know that there's apps out there like I think it's Calm and stuff like that, but
and that's the thing that's interesting. It all goes hand in hand. So like prana, or life force, which is breath, that's just that controls everything. And breath work is essentially just doing that level of work with your breath, right? Just kind of like learning to control it and just being very intentional. Like once you understand like just some simple protocol on how to properly do breath work, you could self-regulate. You could be having a completely shitty day. You take 5 minutes and do like some decent breath work, and your whole body, mind shifts.
Yeah.
You drop in to yourself, and that's just the power of it. I mean, and it's nothing. And the thing is, doing breath work is relatively simple. It's just being really conscious of like how you're breathing and just knowing how to breathe. So like something as simple as like a lot of people struggle to meditate, right? So like when you meditate, just kind of like breathing through the nose, because it filters things out better than the mouth. Like when you breathe through your mouth, it's good for emotional release. But when you breathe to the nose, it could center you better. So for example, if you're meditating, your eyes are closed, the average person, me included in the beginning, I remember I couldn't do 5 minutes of meditation. And now I do like 3 hours, like easy. So, in the beginning, like it through the nose, it's when you're sitting there, your mind starts to race. You're like, when is this over? I need this shit over, right? Like that was me in the beginning. I was trying to do 15 minutes. I remember I was like, every few minutes, I'm like opening my eyes, looking at the clock, like 12 minutes to go, 12 minutes to go. But then I started putting some breath work into it. And like, for example, if you're sitting, and you do something like just like this, just like, and then you take a deep breath in and you hold for just like 8 seconds or 10 seconds. You release. You could do that right now if you don't mind trying it. You'll just notice a quick change in state.
Let's do it.
So out of the nose like that.
Yeah, just like hard breathing through your nose, kind of like a bull. You know how a bull?
Oh yeah.
Okay, like we're about to charge.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Exactly. We'll do 10 of those, right? And then we're gonna hold our breath for 10 seconds and then release through the nose. You'll see the instant. So on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Wow. That is actually quite calming.
It does it feels like the room's gone like empty and stuff. I nearly started laughing at the start because they're doing it and that fucking nearly shot like a bogey out my nose. I was a bit congested, so I was like shit. But no, I was actually going to ask you about certain things like that because I was reading about something quite a while ago when I was like reading up a little bit about like breathing techniques and stuff, and there was one that I think it was I can't remember the exact name of it, and you might know it when I start to explain it. I think they said it was like an old technique that they used to use in the Navy before they went to like war or something. I can't remember, but it was you breathe in, and then I think you hold it for 10 seconds, and then you breathe out for 10 seconds, and then you hold it.
And there's a lot of modalities out there too.
Yeah.
Like, you have Hoffman, you have allotropic. There's a bunch of different. But the beautiful thing about, again, this goes back to the whole ayahuasca thing about like, you are the healer. Like the beautiful thing is once you know all the different modalities out there, it's up to you to just leverage it how you want. If you want to do a deep dive of just like, studying a variety of different like methods and how people do it, I think that's good. But ultimately, it's up to you to take that and then make it your own and then just create your own rituals, your own practice to ultimately be able to regulate yourself how you need, when you need it. It's like having the tools. And then, if you need the hammer today, use the hammer and et cetera. But yeah, just something like that we just did, that's just 10 seconds. Yeah. Imagine, you sitting up and you're meditating and then you're doing that like every 30 seconds, just regrounding yourself. You start to really drop in.
100%.
And the beautiful thing about meditation is after a while, your mind gets trained to understand that, okay, I have to be in the moment. It makes you so much more patient in life. Like, and the average person, they give up a meditation, one, because they don't know like these little like steps that really helps you drop in. So they kind of give up on it. But like the ability to do that, like just the clarity that comes from your mind, because again, thinking is a phenomenon. Truly, you as a spirit, you live in your heart. Literally, that heart center is plugged up to every aspect of your life. All emotional decisions, all of that stuff, like your true essence, your authentic self that we hear all the time. Again, like these things we don't always make the correlation, but it's true. You live in your heart. As a spirit, you live in your heart. And like, when you learn to just stop treating the mind as primary decision maker, meaning like everything is a logical thought and blah, 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 and you start functioning more from like your heart center, you make better decisions, you're more authentic as a person. And like you said before, as far as just like, even if like, with your mate and like you guys got back together, it's like you're able to really just have more clarity in your life, and the less you could quiet the mind, the better, the more you could experience as far as just like clarity, So like things that you needed, let's just say this certain decision you're trying to make, if you could quiet your mind and just kind of sit with it, which is why meditation is so beautiful. It's like the right answer comes to you. You don't have to like chase it. It just literally like, it could just be like a complete random drop of insight that just comes to you. And that's the beauty of it. And like the longer you start to sit, the more you start to have a resonance, like appreciation for just stillness and just being able to just, again, like this life force that permeates in all of us, you start to have like a relationship with it, just like the silence and just being able to just realize like, wow, the clarity you were looking for, like things. And your mind will always race, man. There's nothing we could do about that, right? Until, you learn how to quiet it down. But in that process, when thoughts come in and out and you keep going back to the breath like we did a second ago, all of these things that, you know, you're trying to work out in your mind as far as just like, you know, whatever issues it may be, it starts to unravel itself. You start to get the clarity you need. And that's just the beauty of it. It's just a practice. You just have to kind of like build momentum and also just kind of like learn a few modalities to just implement into your life.
Yeah, it's such a good thing to sort of get into, and like I think you said before about centering yourself. That's like what I was like thinking, like post doing it. It was like, oh, I feel grounded, I feel in the middle, I feel centered, and and like sort
Imagine an hour of that.
Pardon?
Imagine an hour of that.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, how do you manage 3 hours? What do you do? Just does music help if you put that? You said quite ambient music on.
No, that's a good question. So for me, it depends on, you know, like I try to do those on like Friday nights, but like or one night out of like a week, like a Saturday or something. But for me, because I do like, you know, my playlist, so like I'll probably play like 20 minutes just to kind of get into it and just kind of vibe out as I'm sitting on my mat, and then. The music, and then I kind of have a timer for the music to go out, and then it just goes into like, because I'm kind of like halfway there anyway.
Yeah.
And I'll just go into just like meditation. And one thing too, if anyone listening to this microdose like 0.1 % of like a mushroom, right? Like, which is nothing, but to meditate with that, it's so beautiful, man. So tranquil, so like. You'll go so deep because one, between doing the breath work and also like, you know, mushroom has a way of just kind of like clearing up your space, and like that ability to just kind of like just sit with yourself with like a little dose of mushroom. Yeah, you'll go like an hour. You'll find yourself doing an hour to 2 hours. And what I've come to realize too, I think after like when you're trying to get into it, the day you break like 45 minutes, I noticed that there's a direct shift in just like your mind being calm. It's just the interesting thing, but like 45 minutes is kind of like the threshold to like train the mind.
Yeah. I don't even know where I'd start to like even go and get some mushrooms like over here, but I definitely want to give it a go. Like I can imagine like me and Ryan just getting like a fucking big blanket out and putting on some like. Is your playlist on Spotify or? Yeah, you have to send it us.
Yeah, definitely. So that ties into like the whole Vessels thing and how it came about. Like, if you don't mind, I'll just explain how.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So like with Vessels, after I had like my awakening and like just like this deep, like grounded and understanding of just like everyone is really one, just having different experiences. So like one quote I live by is like, everyone is you having a different experience.
Yeah. And
that in itself, you know, really has guided me. Like, you know, it allowed me to just like reconcile relationships with just like, you know, people, you know, self-perception, right? Like perceiving, oh, this person hurt me and I'll never talk to him again. Being able to just have like empathy and like, you know, seeing things from different perspectives and just like making peace with people. And sometimes it's miscommunication too, right? But to answer your question about the whole playlist thing, so for me, I over time I ended up curating like a whole playlist. It's like 24 hours of like ambient music or just like healing music, really, just like very low key underground artists that you probably never really have heard of like that. But the work they're doing in this space of people that are like really looking to like heal themselves, they're like legends, and it's absolutely incredible. And for me, what I ended up doing is curating this playlist, and there was one specific artist, I gotta give her a shout out. Her name is Layar. She has this song called High to the Soul, and the playlist is called Rise Now. If you want to look for it, it's called Rise Now.
Rise Now.
And she had a song that really allowed me to have my first real breakthrough. It was like I think the lyrics were something like so good to give, so good to receive, so good to believe, so good to live. And like the part about so good to give and so good to receive, so good to forgive, that in itself, when I thought about like my siblings and like just how frustrated I was at them and just the whole situation, bro, when I tell you I cried like a little boy, it was crazy. And then I ended up having the opportunity to meet her a couple years later, I booked her to come to Tulum, and she ended up performing for us, like you said, in a cave.
Fucking hell, no way. Wow.
Yeah, it was for a small group of like 8 of us, like some really close friends. Like all people I've met on my journey, and like she performed for us in like in the cenote, and like it was incredible. And then we did a sound bath after, and yeah, and that was kind of like my closure for like my journey, because that was like the first song, honestly, that really like touched me, that really resonated with me. And then like to actually have a chance to meet her and like hear the song live and like tell her my story, and like we just build a relationship. It was incredible. And she's from Spain, if I'm not mistaken. I think she's from Spain. But yeah, as far as the music, it's a big part of the journey. To your point about the whole mushroom, like if you do it, one thing I would tell you, or anyone out there, I highly encourage, if you do journey with like mushrooms, make sure you're in an environment that is inviting, meaning like it's tidy, you feel good, you light a candle, you kind of create that whole vibe for yourself, because it could be intense. And, if the environment is like assuring, it helps a lot. It really does.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, setting is a big, big deal.
Yeah, I was good. You mentioned sound baths as well. Then I was going to say about that, because I seen that my mother-in-law, she went for a sound bath recently, and she said she loved it. And I think they have all like gongs and stuff like that, Yeah. It's just where you're getting like a bath kind of and flow, and obviously relax.
It's an energy bath. It's literally an energy. If you think about like, and the thing is, what's interesting? Like a lot of this stuff, like when people hear it, it sounds like very woo-woo. When I say woo-woo, like it's like, over the top, right? It's like, all the spiritual stuff. But then the funny thing is, when you stop and you look at like the science, when all the scientists are saying, it backs it up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's a weird thing. People, may, reject it, but then at the same time, when you look at science says, oh, this is actually the path forward. And what I mean is, it's kind of like, a lot of them, they use crystals and like a lot of different instruments, but like typically you'll hear like a crystal bowl, like they're hitting it, and like it's an art in itself.
Yeah.
And like those things, I think there was an experiment where they actually, I think they put a sound bath, kind of like, not even a sound bath sound, but like I think it was kind of like a 432 hertz sound in water, and they actually changed the makeup of the water. So I say that to say, like, there's a direct correlation between sound and how your body heals. So, working with things like that, like, again, there's two minds, right? There's kind of like intuition, and then there's also like the logical mind. So like, I truly see what's happening in the world. It's like those two are coming together, meaning like, when you look at science and they tell you like, there's certain frequencies that if you listen to it, it just makes you calm. And that's essentially what sound bath does. It gives you a chance to just really just like rest the nervous system and just reset. And it's the same thing when you do breath work. Yeah, it's just all about knowing how to work with your avatar, your body, man. That's really what it comes down to.
No, that sounds really good. I could ask so many questions about all this stuff. Like I said, my mother-in-law loves all this stuff. Like she buys crystals all the time. I think she's got a salt lamp. I might be wrong, she might not, but like she loves it all. Like all that kind. And she bought sage as well. She buys sage and burns sage and all shit like that.
Cleanses the negative energy. Yeah.
Look it up. Look at what sage does to the environment.
Yeah.
Like, people put sage in the air to kind of clear out, like negative energy. But when you look at the science, if you can just Google it, you'll see like that's scientifically proven. It clears the air.
Yeah, and I was going to say as well, because I was looking on you the next event you've got coming up on Eventbrite. I was because it says on there about mushroom teas as well. So that's obviously like the more like legal tea that you could just buy in like a health shop and stuff, in it, or is it?
Yeah. So here in Jersey, actually, psilocybin I think that there's a certain quantity where it's legal, so it's not like a big deal.
Yeah.
But if you microdose it, it's literally like less than like a gram, right? So it's like it's nothing. You don't feel anything, but what you feel is so subtle that you don't notice it, but it does have impact on your mood, your day, and what I come to realize is like a lot of times when I do my 3-hour meditations, like I'll just microdose, and then like I just go really deep. Like I remember one time I was just sitting on my bench and like just going in, and like I was so present, so in the moment. Literally, I felt like I felt like I felt like I saw the color of my aura. It was like a light blue color. And I'm like, this is the strangest thing. Like, what the hell is going on? And these things just make you feel like, am I losing my shit? But it's kind of like you just really going in and tapping into yourself. A lot of phenomena, right? Like, the world is a phenomenon. We're talking through a device. Like,
oh, true.
It's crazy. It's just phenomenal, bro. But yeah, for the event, to answer your question, for the event, it's optional. People will have the chance to just kind of like to have like a small microdose to really drop in, because we're going to do a 30-minute meditation followed by breath work.
So what's it called? Is it cabin extract that you put the microdose into the mushroom tea? What's it called?
So it could be any tea, right?
Yeah.
So it could be any tea, and then there's like so psilocybin. You could take like a
Psilocybin.
Psilocybin. You can take a very small dose of it and then just put it on, and it literally like a drop, because psilocybin, it could be strong if you take a lot. So like we just put like a little drop of it, and again, it's so subtle. There's no like it's not really.
So just like a pinch, like kind of like a pinch of salt. Yeah, I'm going to try and get my mother-in-law to get me some. I want to try some in a quinine tea. That you
should do one before a pod.
And just record ourselves in silence for 3 hours with gongs every now and then.
Hi guys, we're about to go to sleep right now. Enjoy.
I do really want to try it though. Like, you've proper sold it to me. Like, it sounds so good.
You should. I mean, and it's funny too, and I just want to put this out there. Plant medicine isn't for everyone, right? Like, not everybody. It doesn't call everyone. But I could honestly, confidently say, I think that's like how the world is going to heal. It's the fastest way to help the world heal. Because let's be honest, there's certain truths about us that, as people, that is buried so deep that we don't even want to address on a conscious level. You don't want to go there. You just don't want to talk about it. You don't want to address it. And what I've noticed with plant medicine is like it may be a hard journey, but it makes you confront it. It makes you face it face to face.
Yeah.
And that's where the breakthrough happens. Like, for example, I remember the first time I went, there was this guy, he was an alcoholic for 25 years, he was telling us. And when he stopped, he actually ended up quitting after his first ayahuasca journey. And he was just like, that was the first time he had a chance to stop blaming everybody else and kind of just realize that it was more about him and like his self-sabotage than like, using excuses for somebody else. And like, and that was just one journey. Like, stuff like that is absolutely powerful,
Yeah, defo.
But I think there's a certain vulnerability you want to have. Like, you want to be honest with yourself if you feel like you're ready to go there. And if you are, it's on the other side is absolutely incredible. It's a guy that was suicidal. I honestly probably wouldn't have been here. I can't even, like, I have so much gratitude for just, life and just like taking a risk that could have gone either way. I don't know. You know? But it just played out for me where, like, I have grace, meaning like I have grace from, all of these experiences led to my awareness before I even knew a lot of like the philosophies that, support what I experienced, so I don't feel crazy. But just grace to just be able to go through that process and come out on the flip side, like, and now I'm able to help other people just have their own breakthroughs. Plant medicine is a game changer in the world, and and I'm so happy different people are advocating for it, because it is needed.
Yeah, I think so too. Because aren't they doing it in like medical practitioners now? I think they're doing it with like PTSD. Are they like microdosing DMT, or there's some sort of psychedelic that they're microdosing to aid their PTSD, their traumas and stuff. Well, that's happening all over the world now, isn't it?
All over, yeah. That's a great point too. We didn't mention that. Yeah, a lot of people that have PTSD will go to like an ayahuasca retreat, or will go to like a mushroom retreat and like, you know, relive that moment. And it's just like ultimately, and we were talking about this yesterday, like when you heal from like your trauma, it's not like you as a person, you change, right? You have your personality and that remains the same, but the relationship that you have with that trauma changes, right? And it allows you to like understand your own triggers and things like that. And, you know, and maybe for whatever reason, different parts of you that you could have been ashamed of or just hiding from, you know, like not being your authentic self, you essentially are able to just be more authentic as a person because you're good and you're bad. You're able to reconcile the two and just show up as yourself for whatever it's worth. That's it. That's the beauty of healing, because then you could really, and the beauty of that is you encourage the next person to just be themselves. And then that's how we find authenticity in the world and start to build that community. And a lot of people that have like PTSD, like, or blockers, period, you know, whatever you're dealing with it blocks you from just being your true self because you're so caught up in like that loop and that experience. It could be anxiety, it could just be, you know, different triggers. But yeah, it's, you know, when you address whatever you're dealing with face on, it's just, I'm not saying it's easy. I really want to like stress that because there's certain guys that go through this, like you will hear it, like the PTSD guys that from like war, or it's crazy. Like you hear yelling, like screaming and like, you know, calling on like people that died in war with them. It's real stuff. But then they come out of it and like, it's just a new person. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. There's just no words for it.
So powerful, honestly.
So it is proper powerful. And I think it's somewhat like intoxicating as meaning if you're a certain way with an individual who you might just meet, say down the street, if you're nice and you're accommodating, you're welcoming, they're gonna more than likely gonna go and be accommodating to the next guy they meet, and the next guy they meet is gonna do the same. So it's like a ripple effect from you just being a nice fucking person and being aware that like that person might be having a bad day. They bumped into me, and I'm just gonna go, oh, sorry about that. Here's your file that you dropped. Have a nice rest of your day. And then that can just go on and go on and go on and go on.
Think about how powerful that is. And that is such a beautiful statement to say because it's the ultimate truth. All that matters is the moment, and everyone is you having a different experience. And what you just said, to have that level of empathy where like, you know, somebody could go off on you, right? And half the time it has nothing to do with you. Really, it just doesn't. It's just them dealing with that. Because we live in loops, right? So whatever, you know, wherever you are in life is really just a subconscious reenactment of what you're dealing with internally, you know? Until you stop and break the loop, then a new loop forms. But until then, that person, like, unless you have the awareness of like, man, everyone is me having a different experience, you're not able to just have that certain level of empathy when somebody pisses you off. The average person is just going to react like, you know, screw you, you know, you pissed me off, and you know, react instead of just being aware of their moment and giving that person grace that they probably don't even deserve. But you able to break that loop, like you just said, it creates the domino effect.
Exactly. That's what I was meant to say. Domino effect. I couldn't think of the correct terminology, but it can be powerful, and it can be so simple to just say like, you know, like have manners, say thank you. You know what I mean? It's so easy to sort of like create those domino effects just in like everyday life.
Yeah, and you know, for me too, what I realized too, you know, what you're talking about is kind of like holding space for people, and like sometimes, you know, sometimes it's just listening to people, just like non-judgmental, giving somebody an ear to just, they could be saying whatever gibberish they're saying because they're going through it in their own world. And you just give them an ear and just like let them vent. And the incredible thing about that is that could save somebody's life. Literally, that could prevent somebody from doing something very silly because they just caught up in a loop. Sometimes just like giving people an ear is just as powerful as anything else, like doing a good deed. And again, it's just a journey. It's a process. There's a lot to unpack, but yeah, it's interesting, man. Like truly, everyone is you having a different experience. We all are the same thing. Like when you and the thing is, like when you look at like all of like the Hindu philosophies, even Buddhism, all this stuff, it's like it's the same truth. We all seeking one thing, to be happy. But your essence is happiness, meaning like the core of you, like when you stop and you're in the moment, regardless if life is like, whatever you're going through, if for whatever reason you could just break and just be in the moment and somebody says, something funny, or you could just have an appreciation for something in front of you, that's bliss, there's happiness in that. But what tends to happen is, again, the thinking mind just prevents all of that. And when people are just like have all these thoughts going on, even though we don't have like probably like all of the solutions for them, sometimes it's just like giving them an ear, man. Just like listen and don't judge. Just let them vent. And I've come to realize that like there's something very like sacred about that, to just give people like that ability to just express. Because a lot of times people don't feel heard. You know what I mean? And like and they don't even always know how to fully express what they're feeling. It's through talking and just like blurbing whatever comes to mind, and like, oh, okay, I see what's going on, and like they have like a little clarity, So
Definitely.
Awesome, amazing, Jeff. You've been absolutely amazing. Have you got any parting messages to the Vessels crew, the TBC members? Any last sort of little sign off that you want to get out to the world?
First of all, I want to say, guys, thank you so much for having me. This is incredible. I'm really glad. You gave me the space to actually just kind of share with you my journey, and just kind of like put it more out there. What I want to accomplish with Vessels. I'll say this: Vessels came from essentially me looking to put together like a product that I wish I had when I was going through my journey. And basically it's the first offering is a meditation bench, aromatherapy candle with a 40-day program. And the purpose of that is to essentially just help people come to terms with true reality, which is kind of like understanding that you're more than your mind, you're more than your body, and like, kind of having like that new relationship with yourself, and also teaching them the modalities of breath work and meditation. And I kind of look at it like a legacy product, or legacy project, I should say. Kind of like, I've been fortunate enough to have my own spiritual awakening, but how do I like curate my future while I'm here and help other people have their own breakthroughs? And this is kind of like what came to me. So again, I'm truly grateful for you guys for holding space for me to just kind of share. I really do.
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Honestly, you've been absolutely awesome to chat to, and we'll definitely stay in touch. Send us all the playlists and stuff.
Yeah,
and,
definitely send the playlist.
Yeah.
I'll send you guys. I'm gonna send you guys the magnet box too. So it's like, hold on, let me just kind of show you. So this is it right here. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Oh, is that the blue one?
Yeah. So it's basic. These are all the prototypes, by the way. All the prototypes. Are like,
oh wow.
Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, I'm gonna send you guys some stuff overseas, and just from me to you, I really do appreciate you guys for this moment in time.
Oh, we appreciate you too, mate.
More
We've
than
learned
welcome.
so much, and like you are such a fucking nice person, and you can tell how passionate you are about it. It really shines through. So thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you. Same. All right, guys.
Take care, Jeff. We'll be in touch.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
See you, mate. Bye.
Oh, mate, what a
Sick.
fucking legend.
Sick.
He's unbelievable, him.
Sick.
Honestly. Could have spoke to him for fucking hours.
I know, but I was cautious of the time and stuff, and fucking hell, wow. Yeah, mega.
Oh, mate. Well, let's end the episode there, and fucking buzzing, man.
Jeff, you're an absolute legend, mate. Peace.
Peace.